Kadyn Proctor is Alabama's monster left tackle looking to dominate the SEC and become a first-round pick for the 2026 NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shot for being our every Dayers. Guys, we're going into the trenches and talking about this offensive tackle class. Kadyn Proctor. Is he the next great offensive lineman out of Alabama? Gennings Dunker, tackle, guard, mauler, all of it. We're going to talk about him for out of Iowa. And then Blake Miller, the offensive tackle, the right tackle for those Clemson Tigers. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Kadyn Proctor, Keith, this is a very talented, big body offensive tackle. And I believe he's like 6'7". I believe is what they have him listed as. And just watching him, it's very apparent that he's huge. He's a massive human being. He's powerful. He's to me is a running back's dream in terms of like if you're running, especially if you're running a lot of toss sweeps and stuff, and you get the tackle out in space. He's the guy running back's going to love to run behind because he's like he's literally like a bear out in space, just hunting his prey. And you see him get up on his high horse. He's out in full speed. He those safeties and corners. Those outside defenders that aren't 220, 30 pounds, you got some decisions to make when he's out in space. Yep. I think it might have been, I can't remember which game it was, but it was a corner. I give him all credit in the world for trying to take him on. It just didn't end well. I was like, I don't know what you expected to happen here, but he went for it. It didn't work out. But this is a guy that's powerful, got good arm length. It reminds me a lot of J.C. Latham. And we're going to get into like the lateral concerns that were kind of similar to JC. But reason why I felt JC could live at tackle, his get off at the snap was so quick and explosive to where by the time you get to, as an edge rusher, you fire off the ball, he's meeting you at the top of your rush. Like he's ready and prepared for you rather than, okay, I'm big, I'm slow plotting, and I can't get out of the blocks. JC got out of the blocks extremely well at Alabama. And Kaden does the same thing. Now, the issue I would say is that the lateral fluidity and range, I could see him having some trouble in the NFL when you put him on the island and you wide nine him and stretch him out away from that guard to where now he's got to handle the inside counter and the outside. I could see some issues with that where you could stress that hip fluidity, the lateral quickness of his feet. But overall, when I watch this young man, I see power, the latch and grip strength. He is a mauler. He's going to move you in the run game. He's going to create rush lanes. He can double team, climb to the second level. But he does have enough pass protection ability. Again, 6'7". I wouldn't be surprised if he came in with 33.5 at minimum. Talking about 33s at minimum on the arm. I think he's a guy like he's got first round buzz right now. Like a lot of people have him. Some people have him as their top offensive tackle. I definitely have him in the first round. I don't know if we'll see where I land on him. Like once we see this season, but I'm really high on him. I do like him. I just don't know if I'm going to put him in top 10 just yet.
Yeah. So the first thing watching Kadyn Proctor, you say Alabama has a type, right? It's almost like Kadyn, like they have a type because from a body profile, these are almost carbon copies. When you talk about from Kadyn Proctor to J.C. Latham to Evan Neal, right? Then you think back to some other guys way back in the past, right? They pretty much have a type, and it's these offensive linemen that are 330 plus, right? These guys that kind of operate at probably 345.
He's 6'7", 360 listed as right.
Well, he's 360,
that's
right?
crazy.
And that's insane. And so That was my first thought. DP is over. I was like, yep, same thing. But I agree with you with the overall analysis that there is a lot to like, and there's also a lot to question, right? To have concerns about. And it reminded me of Evan Neal from when he played left tackle and when he played right tackle. Remember, because you was at the draft and at the time, and I was like, I have some concerns. And it was almost two different reports, DP, that I had on Evan Neal from when he played the right side and two different grades, and then when he played the left side. And looking at Kaden, I think he can excel at a very high level. It's just cleaning those things up, right? And sometimes as an offensive tackle, the best success is the threshold is weird, right? Because it's some you can be deemed a successful draft pick by almost just not getting in the way, meaning that if you just find a way to effectively do your job and not even necessarily dominate, you're okay, right? You just can't be bad at the offensive line position. And it reminds me of the quote of Will Campbell, right? Like you have to find that risk mitigation to where it's like you can't be dominant for 79 plays, but one play you give up a sack. Yeah, you do that every single game. You're going to be working at Amazon, right? Like it just doesn't work. You have to find a baseline. And I think that's what Kaden has to find is a baseline for success for himself, right? Being 350 pounds. Okay, cool. And when we write reports, I know you see offensive linemen with this. Hey, just hang on to the inside leverage, right? Keep inside leverage no matter what and force them around you, run them around the arc and be done, right? And it almost seems like that's probably Kaden's way of success. I want to ask you, is he a guy at all that you think can be kicked inside and play some guard?
Yeah, I definitely think he could. If a team evaluates him and just say, you know what, you don't check the box for us at tackle. And of course, then you got to, meet with the young man, tell him that, hey, if we draft you, we might play you at either left guard or right guard. See how he feels about it, right? Remember Johnny Wilson, when he came on the FSU, teams got pissed off with Johnny because they want him to play tight end. Johnny said, no, I want to play wide receiver. Unfortunately for Johnny, he ended up slipping down the board to the Eagles and everything, where he should have been probably third round pick. We just watched Jaden Higgins go top of the second round. I felt like Johnny Wilson was as of the same ilk or caliber as a Jaden Higgins. Is that big body contested catch, could stretch the field, back shoulder, all that type of stuff. But teams won. He was 6'6". We saw him at the Senior Bowl, and the tip of his fingertips was touching his kneecaps. And it was like, bro, you're not real. You know what I mean? They're not a real wide. Like, you don't look like a normal receiver. So I think with Kaden, if he's cool with it, fine. But I do think that this is a guy that with his, I like his punch timing. I think he understands hey, I'm either going to be on time or I'm going to be late. I can't be early. I'm not going to put myself in the position to be out of position. Rather, he's got incredible knockback power and the power to stonewall a rush. He can anchor too. He's one of those guys. I think it was Jeff Schwartz. I think it might have been him. From an NFL offensive lineman. I think he went to Oregon. He's a college football analyst now. And I think it was either him or Mitchell Schwartz. One of the two talked about for offensive tackles, like edge rushers coming in the league, that the speed and the bend and stuff is cool, but you got to be able to run through guys. Well, it's going to be the opposite for Kaden. You better be able to run around Kaden because you're not running through Kadyn Proctor. It's just not happening. And so for me, Keith, I think he can play guard. You probably can get a Mekhi Becton type of trajectory with him, that power, that strength, the movement ability to just absolutely create rushing lanes. Like people, we give so many people credit on the Eagles. Mekhi Becton was one of the unsung heroes of that offensive line. Because pairing him over there with Lane Johnson and him playing guard for the first time in his career and developing well there, that's why he got a bag to go to the Chargers, right? Because they needed to improve their offensive line. So I will ask you this too, Keith. Like, he's 6'7", 360. Would you prefer him to drop a little bit, get down to 330, and say, let's see what the movement skills are there?
Yeah, I would, just because I how do you say this, right? Like it's probably not beneficial and not helpful to be 350, right? I understand having body mass and because I always talk about it from an edge rusher position, right? Like if you're an edge rusher, you better have some speed to power with you, right? So I understand as an offensive lineman wanting mass so then that way you can anchor down. But I do think when you talk about the 350 plus, like that that kind of gets to the excessive kind of part of it, right? And I think him dropping down to 330 because we got to talk about the run game too, right? Like you want him to be mobile enough on zone concepts to either, be the backside seal-off guy, or you want him to be able to double and climb to the second level, and you want to be able to do that in a controlled manner so he can be effective doing it. So I do think him potentially dropping 20 pounds. I don't know if he'll do it this year. It'd probably be a draft process thing, right? Like he probably play at 350 and then draft process, he'll come in at 335 or something like that, right? Something that's more
combine.
Yeah, at the combine. Yep, something that appears in a different light. So I'm definitely on board with him losing just a couple pounds just to help his movement skills overall. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We're going to Gennings Dunker. That name will catch you off guard, right? Trying to pronounce that the right way. But this is Iowa offensive tackle, Iowa right tackle, Gennings Dunker. We're gonna talk about him coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the bright lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best place and best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more worth your while and a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Let them handle that. Let's go make some money. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. New to FanDuel, I have just the thing for you. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets by just betting $5. And if that first $5 bet wins, they get that $150 back. So, guys, you don't want to miss out on a deal like this. Open the FanDuel app today. Go visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is an ad by BetterHelp. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. The summer is the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs or take endless vacations, but we can start small. Whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help you navigate life's challenges. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Your schedule is busy, and you probably wish you had more time to schedule sessions. Well, guess what? The flexibility of online therapy makes it easy to fit these sessions into your busy schedule no matter where you are. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/locked-on. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on. Iowa right tackle guard Gennings Dunker. Keith, this is for anybody that hasn't, like, just a little quick backstory. Please go find his meal routine. This dude is different, is mentally different. He's built different in terms of how many calories he intakes, what he eats pre-game, like that from the time he wakes up until game time. I don't know how he does it, right? But like, he's still fit, he's still lean and trim and strong, but he eats a lot. Like, please go search it on Twitter, social media, and just listen to him talk about it. But he's listed at 6'5", 315 pounds, and from just a numbers perspective, didn't get into it with Kaden, but I wanted to bring it with him. 2 sacks allowed, 2 quarterback hits, 9 hurries, 13 pressures. The thing with him is that Iowa didn't throw the ball a ton last year for a good reason. They did not have the best quarterback play. They ran the ball a lot. So in terms of like blocking, snaps, 319 rush blocking snaps, only 269 pass blocking snaps at right tackle. And this is a guy that has alignment versatility. I believe it was 2022. He started, I think, the last game, but he played some of that season at right guard. Then in the 2023 season, they kicked him to right tackle. He's been their right tackle ever since. But, watching Gennings, he's a mauler. He's got his dad, I think, is a power lifter. I think maybe powerlifting champion. So like weightlifting runs in the blood, and that's something that he's been doing since high school and everything, ever since he really could. So you see that the A trait for him in terms of an elevator pitch, he's going to elevate your run game immediately.
Yep.
And I'll say this: we talking about him as a tackle. I think he's a guard. I think he's going to play guard. I think he's going to have to play guard in the NFL. But that's a good thing for a team that needs guard because he reminds me a lot of Quinn Miners. You know what I mean? Who plays for the Denver Broncos, one of the best guards in the league, and a guy that's been paid. I'm pretty sure he got a contract. And when I look at Gennings Dunker, the latch strength, the grip strength, the ability to torque and turn defenders, but also he plays like, I think they nicknamed him Paul Bunyan. I think that was his nickname. I think at Iowa. And that kind of fits. Like he wants to put guys in the dirt at a constant, consistent basis. Like it's just who he is. And it's not like, remember the tackle out of Northern Iowa? Because I remember you weren't that high on him. Yeah. So remember Penning was like at the Senior Bowl, Penning would do stuff like that after the play when guys are letting up. He'll try to take a guy to the ground. So like, no, like Gennings Dunker does it against your will. Like you want to stay upright. You're trying to fight through the block, but it doesn't really matter. Like he does a good job running his feet. He does combo blocks well. He climbs to the second level. He picks off linebackers. He'll seal you as a backside tackle on those zone runs. And we know that Iowa run nothing, but they ran a ton of zone last year with Caleb Johnson and stuff like that. That was the base of their rushing attack. I think he has first round, like mid to late first round potential, but it's going to be at guard. I don't think it is more, to me, it's more so the arm length. I'm concerned about how long his arms are. And does he have the foot agility and quickness and speed to consistently live on the outside in the NFL against NFL edge rushers, especially the first step quickness guys, the explosive guys that we're going to see week in and week out in the NFL.
Yeah. So the arm length for you, the question I have, I don't know, you seem like, I feel like overall mass was an interesting thing. Like he seemed like a very lean type of tackle.
He's not like overly, like he's not an overweight guy at all. Like he's very lean.
Yep. And so I agree with you. That's what I thought about when I thought about guard. I'm like, we might have an all-pro guard on our hands. And meaning that you talk about a guy that can be the pillar in the run game. That's what he can do, right? Like, and it's because of, and we use this word with other positions, but very rarely use it with offensive linemen, but his first step quickness, right? Like guy fires off the football and gets downhill quickly. And I agree with you that the only thing that's on his mind is finish him. Right? Finish him. And that type of mentality and temperament, when we talk about revamping an offensive line group or injecting something into a O-line group, like that type of temperament matters, and it changes the entire room, right? Because everybody wants to play like that, and he becomes a leader of your team or a leader of your offensive line room. You're in a good spot because this guy plays it and does it the right way. But I think that he can play tackle. Like I think he can play tackle, but I may look at him as a guard, and there's obviously a negative connotation around that. Like, oh, he can't play tackle, he got to play guard. But when you have guys that have the opportunity to be all pro guards or Pro Bowl guards, then that shouldn't be looked at as a negative connotation, right? And you think back to Quentin Nelson, right, and what he meant for the Indianapolis Colts, right? You think about Zach Martin and what he meant for the Dallas Cowboys and their offensive linemen. Yeah, the guard thing shouldn't be underrated or undermined when you're in position to draft these guys that are potential all pros that are like true difference makers at the position. And that's what I think Gennings Dunker has the opportunity to do just because of the mental temperament. There are some things where I think that he may get out over his toes too much, right? Like he's leaning forward just a little bit too much and he can be off balance. But like you said, and you've said this quote a couple of times, this applies to defenders, but offensive linemen, this is pretty good to have. You rather tell them whoa than sick them, right? You rather teach him how to like, hey, approach this guy in a much more refined manner versus, hey, can you please go hit the linebacker, right? Can you go touch that guy? You don't have to worry about that. This guy comes with the right temperament. He comes with the right flow.
And to your point about, the connotation is similar to what we talked about probably 2 years ago on this pod. The conversation with wide receivers, right? Like, oh, he's not an outside guy. He's got to play in the slot. That's not a negative thing anymore. Teams live in like 11 personnel half the time. Like, you want a good slot receiver. With him, and that ability to play guard, I don't want fans to forget the quickest path to the quarterback is through the middle of your offensive line. Like if that trio of guard, center, guard isn't strong, your quarterback is
gonna have a problem.
dead. We're gonna have a problem because he's almost dead to rights. And God forbid you play a team like the Eagles where they can rush the outside and have a Jalen Carter on the interior. Now they can collapse every area of the pocket, and your quarterback doesn't have a way out of that, right? He can't step up to avoid the edge rush, and you can't drift back or escape out because the edge rush is there because you're getting pressure from the interior. So a guy like Gennings Dunker, again, I think he's a guy that, and to your point, that aggressiveness, I think that's where if we can get him to play a little more patient to where, okay, he's just getting into his drop, kick stepping, waiting, punching the right time, right location. He's a little bit of he's just so aggressive that he's a two-hand puncher where you see him kind of leaning, like you talking about over his skis. He'll lean to get two hands on the guy. In pass protection, in run blocking, yeah, that's fine. But in pass protection, you kind of want to, just like a boxer, you want to jab, have that other hand close by. That's your counter. He works inside. You got the inside hand ready for him, right? Put it into his chest plate, latch, grip, shut down the rep. If you can get him to play a little bit more under control in pass protection, I think you got something with him for sure. But at worst, you got yourself a Pro Bowl, potential all-pro guard. Like I said, guys, if you don't know, please go watch some Broncos run game. Watch Quinn Miners. Just watch the Broncos. Like Bo Nix, there's a reason why Bo Nix wasn't touched last year. Bo Nix is one of the most protected quarterbacks in the league. Everybody say he had the best pass-blocking offensive line in the league. Well, Quinn Miners was a big part of that, guys, on the interior. I think he plays right guard. He's a big-time part of that, Keith. And I'm excited to see Gennings Dunker this year. Hopefully we get to see him against the Michigan and Ohio States and those type of defensive lines kind of consistent. I think I played Oregon this year as well. You know, Oregon got Mateo. So they got some guys over there on that Oregon defensive line that should really stress and test him. And if he passes those tests, it's going to be hard for a team to say, you know what, we think you can only play guard.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. Let's go to your neck of the woods, man. We are going to Clemson and talk about Blake Miller. If you've been following the draft, you know last year he was a guy that people thought was going to come out. He decided to return back to school and lead a Clemson offense that should be really good, and a Clemson team that is on a path to be really doggone good if you correlate the NFL draft with team success. So let's talk about Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson, coming up next.
Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougit Ready. Rougit Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougit's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to Rougit.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rougit website for full safety information. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our everydayers. Blake Miller, right tackle, offensive tackle for the Clemson Tigers, 6'6", 315 pounds. Last year, he only allowed 1 sack on the season, 2 QB hits, 15 hurries, 18 pressures. A guy that honestly, and to not let it go unnoticed, like he started a game last year. He started 2 games last year at left tackle because Tristan Lay, I think, was out with a minor injury for 2 games. It was the Pittsburgh game, and then they played Citadel. He played 101 snaps between those 2 games at left tackle, showcasing that positional flexibility. But this is a guy that's, in that Clemson offense, that's an air raid base, but they call it the dirt raid because they want to run the ball. They like to run the ball. Blake Miller is a good run blocking right tackle. Like he gets forward, he creates forward momentum. He can work on angle blocks and drive from angles. get up to the second level, cut off those guys that allow running backs to have creases and lanes into daylight. Also, he's a straight line athlete. They tend to do that skip pull technique, and when you're 6'6" and long with those type with that, it doesn't make sense to have them kind of you want to just let them L step and then run straight down when you're pulling them. Rather, let them run straight down the line of scrimmage, man. When you have him doing that skip pull, it kind of takes some time for him because he's a big dude. He's a tall, long guy, good arm length. You showcase the power, the foot quickness when he needs to. The thing with him, he's upright. He's 6'6", 315, so he's a little upright, gives up leverage, sometimes doesn't protect his chest like he should against those power, like speed to power rushers and things of that nature. You think back to the Florida State game you think about Jared Verse and Patrick Payton. Like, they were able to get to him a little bit, right, and really get into he allows, one thing I want to see him clean up, stop allowing these rushers into your body, right? Stop allowing them into your frame to be able to control a rep, control your core, things like that. Technique wise, like I said, I think he's got something that I think has been coached into him, kind of wide hands in terms of his hand carriage. You know what I mean? So I think if he can clean up some of those things, he'll be fine. He opens his hip a little bit too early on pass sets as well, to where you want him to kind of stay square, stay even, be patient, let the rusher dictate where you go. Like, if you start opening your hips and things like this, is like a corner. If you open the gate too early, that receiver got the advantage. It's the same thing with rushers. So this is a guy that I think, day two, we had a day two grade on him coming into 2025, that second, third roundish. I think that's where he's going to start heading into 2025 football season, is that second, third round. And when you do have the tools and the physical ability that he has and the strength and the size, especially at right tackle, but then you also give you some left tackle versatility. You give him a good offensive line coach in the NFL, probably have yourself a long-term starter.
No, and I think so too, that if he cleans the things up, you clearly see what he can be. Like, and you can see why people say he's a first rounder. But then also, you watch long enough, you can see why people say, this guy's probably going in the third, fourth round, right?
Yeah.
It's a very play-by-play situation with Blake Miller, right? Like, it depends on which play you watch, right? Like, it's one of those things where if you watch play 32, you can be like, oh yeah, definitely draft him top 10. And if you watch play 65, you're like, what are we doing, right?
Nope.
And it's just and I talked about it with Kadyn Proctor, right? About just kind of elevating that threshold of consistency. I think Blake Miller is the definition of that, right? Because there's so much potential there to where you're talking about just a plug and play guy that may be a rotational guy that, at some point you will want to get better at right tackle, right? He can start for you, but you want to get better, or you can be on the other threshold of that. Is like, you draft him, you got to book in starting right tackle for the next 10 years and you trust it. So I'm interested, DP, to see how does the offseason look for him? Or how did it treat him to see, does it elevate his consistency of play, right? Like, does he come in and play at a higher level? And it could be a comfortability type situation, but you return to school for a reason, right? And part of that may have been winning, and all of those guys are returning and say, hey, let's go win a championship. But the other part is, hey, I could develop and kind of be more detailed with my game overall, and I think Blake Miller can do that because the physical tools, like you said, are there. It's just doing it every single time, right? And it becomes a boring, monotonous process. But that's how you almost feel like he needs to approach the game. That, like, you should do this so much that it becomes boring, right? Like that. Like, there's watching Blake Miller is a lot, and you don't want it to be a lot. You should want to watch him, and it's like pretty much boring because it's always the same stuff.
Yeah, you want it to be that drive is just a straight shot. There's no scenery. You're just bored. So you know what? There's nothing to take away from this, really.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be that roller coaster ride. It's like there's some highs and there's some lows, and that's what you see with Blake Miller. Because at time for a guy at 6'6", 315 with his arm length, the thing that kind of frustrates me with him is that he doesn't use that length to his advantage consistently. He'll let guys, like, in the run game and in the passing game, cross his face
and get hands on. Stuff like,
No, like, you got to use that arm length. When you have that type of arm length, use it to your advantage. Box from your landmark. Keep guys at bay. right? Like keep them fighting to get into your body or try and work around you. Same thing with, working the outside, working the outside shoulder is you got that arm length to be able to stab, keep your feet moving, and just wash them around the edge. You know what I'm saying? Recover, things like that. His performance this year is going to be pivotal because one thing we know about Cade Klubnik, his quarterback, Cade athletic, but Cade doesn't like pressure consistently.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you start to see the bad decisions and stuff like that come from him. And I think the left side, Tristan Lay and those guys on the left side are going to be fine. That's his backside protector. But Blake Miller's got to play at a consistent level if this team wants to get to the plateau that the talent level says that they can be, which is they could be hoisting the national championship at the end of the season. The offensive line is going to play a big part in Blake Miller's, whether he's consistent or inconsistent, is going to play a big part in that as well.
Yep, I agree with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're going to come back with more offensive tackles. There's a duo in Utah with the Utes that people have as top 15, top 20 picks, both of them. Spencer Fano, we're going to talk about him and whether or not he can be the top offensive tackle selected, or is he just like Gennings Dunker and might need to play guard. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.